We tend to tie our happiness with external circumstances, and we need them to change so that we may be happy. We don't realize that happiness is always a choice that we make, irrespective of the circumstances. One husband and wife, they went back home to India for a vacation, and as always happens, there were hundreds of relatives they were meeting and parties they were going to. Now, the wife was getting tormented by her nanad. The husband had 4 sisters, and one of them had an obnoxious nature. She would keep complaining to her husband, "Look, your sister said this to me. Can you believe she behaved with me in this manner?" Finally, the wise husband said, "Look, my dear, I agree. She's got a terrible nature. I admit she is not behaving well with you. However, her behavior is not in my control. What is in your control is your response to it. You have to choose. Will I tolerate? Will I become agitated? Will I accept this behavior with understanding and wisdom?" So, there is the external circumstance and the internal response we have to it. And this internal response is the big cause of our problems. We respond wrongly because we don't know how to manage our mind and its attitudes. And then when we become miserable, we blame people and circumstances. As we progress in this mind management challenge, we are embarking on a journey within ourselves. We are discovering tools and techniques to adorn, to ornament ourselves from within. But this journey begins from the outside. So, to understand what is the feature of the external world that provides us with the facility and faculty for mind management, let us today discuss a little bit about the external world. Some people say that this world is mithya. You may have heard, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. Advait Vedanta states that the world is non-existent. What does mithya mean? It's a creation of our mind. This concept of the world being a mental construct is in Western philosophy as well. Subjective idealism and objective idealism. 2 kinds of philosophies have been propagated. And then there was Berkeley, the father of idealism, who said there is no objective reality. The whole world is existing in our mind. So, others question this viewpoint and say if the world is a mental construct, then how come everybody has created the same kind of world? For example, if there is a flower here, somebody should have created a handkerchief, somebody else a flower. Why is it everybody is creating a flower here? And if this world is created by our mind, we should be able to destroy it with the mind as well. However, no matter how much you try, this world will not be destroyed. So they say the world does exist. It may be temporary, but it is not mithya. Satyam bhutamayan jagat. The Mahabharata states, Satyad bhutani jatani sthavarani charani cha. The Vedic scriptures state. Now the truth is that both these philosophical viewpoints are correct. The world is mithya and it is also satya. How come both are correct? Because there is not one world. There are two worlds. What do you mean two worlds? There is an external world made from earth, water, fire, air and sky. And there is an inner world within us, our thoughts, values, beliefs, ideas, attitudes. The one we see in our dreams when our eyes are closed. Obviously, we don't see the external world. That is the world within us. The external world is one. It's the same for everyone. The sun and the moon and the stars. The internal world is different for all of us. The external world is created by God. Yato mahimani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayantya bisam vishanti. The Taittiriya Upanishad says, He who manifested this world, within whom this world is situated, and into whom the world will merge one day, that Supreme Creator is God. He is the Creator. And the inner world is created by us. Our desires, cravings, hankerings. The external world is not mithya because God is satya. How come He will create something mithya? It is a reality. The inner world is a mental construct because the mind cannot create gross objects. Now, when we understand this distinction, there is the outer world and there is the inner world. We then realize the difference. The outer world is not bad. Why? Because it's created by God. Since He is perfect, the world He has created is also perfect. Ishavasya midam sarvam yat kincha jagatyan jagat. The Ishavasya Upanishad states, everywhere is God. And yet, living in this world, we experience misery, anxiety, tension. Why? Because our inner world is defective as yet. So the spiritual journey is one of purifying our inside. There are things about the outside world you can change, and there are things that you cannot change. As was discovered by a neophyte yogi. One practitioner of the yogic sciences went so deep in his experience that the world practically fell away from him. He renounced his family, his home, his career, and went to live in the Himalayas. There, he got a perfect hermitage. And there he was given by the ashram head a nice cottage hut for himself. And he would sit there and engage in his meditation. The seasons started rolling by until the monsoon came. And along with the monsoon, the first shower brought the celebration of the frogs and the other creatures. That night, when this yogi was sitting in meditation, he was hearing the sounds of the croaking frogs all around, making merry, gwa gwa, pit pit, tar tar tar. He became extremely upset. He said, don't they realize that a yogi is meditating and they need to be quiet? Finally, he vented his frustration. He opened the window of that cottage, put his head out and screamed, "Stop!" Now his sadhana had reached such a level of proficiency that when he passed on an instruction, even the creatures listened. All of a sudden there was a complete hush. The frogs had stopped croaking. He went back to his meditation, very happy that there was no disturbance from the outside. But alas, he discovered a new voice, and this time it was coming from within himself. The voice was saying, "Did you do right by silencing the frogs? After all, God is the one who has bestowed that huge larynx and pharynx to them. Maybe God is as pleased by their croaking as He is by your meditation." This sound became louder and louder, preventing him from meditating, until finally he decided that he cannot come to peace with it. He went back, protruded his head out of the window and said, "Begin!" The frogs were waiting for that signal. Again, the croaking and the joyous sounds of nature began their orchestra. He went back to his meditation, but this time he was completely blissful. Nothing on the external was disturbing him. He had found a peace that could not be snatched by the externals. And that peace had come by accepting certain features of the world that were beyond his control. We often tie the peace of our mind with external situations. If so and so behaves like this, if so and so behaves like that, then I will be happy. But these externals are not in our control. That is why one of the most beautiful practical prayers for life is, "O Lord, give me the ability to change the things that I can, the forbearance to tolerate what I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference." So the external world is not bad. It is perfectly designed, not for our comfort, but for our spiritual growth. It is sometimes the university of hard knocks that will serve us with lemons. But what we do with them, whether we make them into lemonades or become sour ourselves, is always our own choice. Mind management is about controlling the internals, learning the way to make the best response to any situation on the outside. This gap between the external world and our inner world provides us with the opportunity to manage our mind. And this science of mind management is what we are trying to learn. We shall discuss the various afflictions of the mind and how this mind can be uplifted to great heights as we go along.